Hi, this is Sally Foley-Lewis with another Spark Self-Leadership video, and I'm absolutely delighted to be having a conversation with Karen Brown, who is the owner of TerryWhite, Chemmart, Arana Hills Pharmacy, but she's more than just a pharmacist. She's more than a pharmacist or chemist.
We'll go with pharmacist.
Pharmacist. I always wonder if that's the right terminology, so I can be fact-checked today as well. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so look, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while, and we also actually just so happen to be located quite in a similar area in north of Brisbane, and have seen you around the traps and doing great things in the community. And I know you have this whole ethos of if you're calling yourself a community pharmacy, then it needs to be outside your four walls. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. I was 14 when I decided I wanted to be a pharmacist. So I've always had that lifelong dream. And now I get to, I suppose, be the pharmacist in the local community. And it's probably, some would say, quite old-fashioned pharmacy. You think back 20, 30, 40 years ago, the pharmacist was the hub of the whole town and knew everything, knew everybody. But that's what I love. And my first pharmacy I actually bought was at Samford, and actually just sold that a month ago after 13 years. And I was 2 years out of uni and became an owner for the first time. And community engagement is what was our foundation. And it was something that was a very loyal parochial suburb community. And I was coming in from the big smoke and taking over from a lady that had had it for 30 years. So to win them over and to show them who I was, to me, it was getting out in the community. And netball is my background. And so it started at the netball club, and the rest is history. We've won many awards for our community engagement. And I just think I believe as a business owner, you can't just lock the door, open it in the morning, lock it at night. You've really got to immerse yourself in the community, whether it's through health information, donations, even just I talk to local sporting teams on leadership and my sporting history, and young girls, things like that. So I think you can give so much more and you get it back in spades, and you can't always quantify that either. But it's just, I suppose, the reputation you have in the community, and I'm very passionate about the role that I have in the community, and I love what I do.
Yeah. So you're more than just an entrepreneur, you're a community leader.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you just say yes, because some people might get a little bit modest about that. But I think, the fact that you own that, I think, is really quite powerful. I didn't want to just skip over that. So
thank you.
Yeah. I think there's an underlying message there for a lot of people who get quite modest when other people talk them up. And, yes, that's a bit culturally, we should be modest, but at the same time, no, you are a community leader. I am a community leader.
But I think as well, when you work so hard, then, and we're obviously going to talk about self-leadership, and confidence and self-belief is a massive part of that. So, when you work really hard and you do the hard work, it's kind of own it. And it comes with pros and cons. When you're the focus of a community, but the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
Yeah, definitely. So let's expand that and jump into your definition of self-leadership then.
Sure. I think it is just that inner belief to back yourself. It's only something I've started really thinking about in the last few years. And I think as well, leadership, what is leadership? When do you define that you're in the role of leadership? And I was asked recently, when did my leadership journey start? And it made me really think. Everyone talks about your business journey, but when does your leadership journey? Does it start when you were vice captain at primary school, when you captain the under-8 netball team? Like, when does your leadership journey actually start? And I think it's that ability, that inner belief that you've got the confidence to lead yourself first and foremost before you can actually lead others.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And I agree. We often think of in our adult days, but mine goes back to primary school sport and Girl Guides. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that.
And I suppose that conversation then I believe there's an inner born leader to an extent. I think you definitely evolve and grow, but I think at an early age, you know, you can look at someone and go, oh, you're going to be a leader of the future, or you're a follower, so to speak. But I think, yeah, when does it actually start? Well, yeah, everyone sometimes thinks it's until the title comes in a job role or something, but I think it actually starts a lot. Or you show attributes at a very early age.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. So when we think about confidence and influence and even courage as a leader, because I think they're three things that all leaders need at some point or at some stage, or let's face it, we all need at some point and some stage.
Yeah.
What do you think self-leadership, or the impact self-leadership has on those attributes like courage, influence, and confidence for leaders?
Oh, I think it sums it up perfectly. And I think sometimes it's also, if you don't have those attributes, will people want to follow you, and will people want to be inspired by you? And I think it all comes down to having that confidence and that inner confidence that, you know, as a leader, you got to make some really big calls. And definitely over the last 12 months, we've done that. But you got to have that confidence that you're going to make that call, and that and you've built that trust and respect that people are going to follow that. But also I think it's having you know, I think leadership is about unleashing their energy rather than giving your energy. And, you know, if you haven't got your own energy to give, how are you going to inspire them to give their energy to the team? So, and yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on leaders. It can be a very lonely place to be in leadership roles. And so I think having that inner belief, that confidence, and that courage to back yourself is step one before people are going to want to be part of your team and want to go with you on that journey.
Yeah. And I think taking from what you just said, that yes, leadership is very lonely. And when you are lonely and you're in those sort of roles, it can be quite draining. And so linking that to your point about, instead of giving your energy away, how about you unleash their energy, I think is almost, you know, it serves two purposes, in that you actually want your people to unleash their energy and bring
absolutely
and be motivated and committed to the work, as well as not necessarily emptying your tank. You know, ironically, I have one of these on my desk, you know, because you do have to have your bucket full to be able to do your best. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And that is part of self-leadership as well, is that the personal life, and I don't like the word balance, but leaning in is how I choose to do it. But yeah, that you've got to make sure that you look after yourself first and foremost before you can look after, and your example there is perfectly, you know, look after yourself before you look after others, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think,
sorry, go on.
No, I do think, you know, when I'm working with some staff members who have got great leadership ability and futures, but actually their self-belief and self-esteem and self-confidence is what's actually holding them back. And that's the real shame, when they've actually got great self-leadership that is their roadblock.
Yes, definitely. And it's interesting. So how do you think your confidence has grown? Like, what happened for you or to you that helped to build your confidence over the years?
Yeah, well, my background in sport paved the way for me. Everything I do in business is what I learned in sport. I think the synergies are huge. Obviously, that team environment, that competitiveness, the one percenters, the ability to have this team around you that, you know, I think the really great leaders, and particularly in the sporting world, it's, you know, you almost bring out the best in those people. You lift them to heights they never thought they could go to. And I've always seen myself as the coach of my teams. And that comes from captaining netball teams, coaching netball teams, managing netball teams. And ultimately, we're sport and business, we are bringing a group of individuals together to achieve a common goal. Now, whether that's to have a successful business or to win the championship, the same principles apply. So, you know, I've played sport all my life, and definitely as a 26-year-old owning my first business, people and managing people that were far older and more experienced than me, I came in quite confident because I'd had that netball and sporting background, and I knew how to bring together a group of people. And I'm very goal-driven, very target-driven, constantly want to push the boundaries, want to win, want to do those 1%ers. So, and I think just over time, my leadership's evolved with, I think, situational leadership, and particularly in an environment in pharmacy where you've got career-minded pharmacists to part-time pharmacy assistants that might be working with you while they're at uni as a stepping stone to something else. So it's a very interesting workforce in a pharmacy industry. And
Yeah, wow. And so it's nice that you've got sport as your foundational, your keystone to drive you, and it's been your confidence builder. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've had lots of wins along the way, but let's face it, life's not always roses and cherries and good things. And I think one of the biggest things that as leaders we can pass on or share with others is when something goes wrong, or when we've taken a hit in some form or fashion, how do we as a leader reignite our spark and get back up again? And COVID and the pandemic is a classic current example. But if you had some sort of, if it doesn't have to be COVID, but if some sort of situation that you'd be happy to share. Most importantly, though, how did you get yourself back up, and what were the lessons from that?
Sure. I think COVID is the perfect example, purely because being in the health industry, we were on the front line. And it was, 12 months ago. It's probably one of the toughest leadership times I've had. I had two pharmacies at the time, so 25 team members that I was looking after. And we were hammered. We were absolutely hammered in March and April. And there was so much information being delivered from so many different stakeholders. And I felt it was my responsibility as the leader to filter that and work out what they needed to know, what didn't they need to know. And I drew a line in the sand quite early on where I said all my decisions were going to be based on to make sure my team was safe and that they were happy. And if the tick to both of those, then I was saying yes to that decision. And so as a leader in the pharmacy industry, a lot of people watch what I do and want to see what I'm going to do. And I was one of the real early ones where we did triage at the front door. We split our teams. So we had team A, team B, had team C as the reserves if we all went down, kind of thing. And it was pretty full on, but something that I was extremely proud of was I'm very big on work hard, play hard, and we have quite a big social aspect to our team, and I wanted to make sure that stayed. And we did Zoom trivia nights, we did Zoom game nights, and also my teams did dance-offs in the morning. So Team A would do a dance before we opened and Team B would do theirs. And, to see that as the leader I was so proud of them. And even at the end, when we did a bit of a recap at the start of this year, what was their favourite? Well, actually, when I sold Samford, I said to my team, what was your favourite memory of Samford over the years? And so many of them actually said COVID, and the feeling that they had and the selflessness and, despite really trying times, how much fun they had, even though we were doing 14, 15-hour days kind of thing, which I was really, really proud of as the leader. That can be so overwhelming at the start. How did I personally get through it? I actually was very lucky to do Kokoda back in 2019, and that taught me more than I could ever imagine. It was an amazing experience. But one of the biggest takeouts I got from that was be where your feet are. Be in the moment, be where your feet are. Don't look too far in front. Don't look up that hill to work out how far it's going to be. You just put one foot in front of the other and you'll eventually make it to the end of the 100K track. But that was really prevalent during COVID, where I was, as a mum and as a wife and as a business owner, as a pharmacist, it was kind of just be where your feet are. And when you're at work on Team A at one store, you're there. When you get home at night, your mum, your wife, be there. And then when you're Team B at the other store at the other end of the week. So be where your feet are was really important for me, just to get home and just almost, I'm quite good at compartmentalizing as a leader. I think you've got to be able to kind of, compartmentalize parts of your life so that you can show up each day for your team. But equally, you've got to be vulnerable and real and authentic. And, I try to be the same person, whether I'm at home or at work, but it's also being able to switch off and kind of be where your feet are.
Yeah, and I think there's the interesting distinction in that. Number one, I love be where your feet are. That's just fantastic. But when you say compartmentalize, I think one of the key takeaways from that and listening to what you said is it's not compartmentalizing who you are. No. It's compartmentalizing and speaking properly where you are and what you're focusing on. And I think some people, when they hear compartmentalize, they think they have to split off a whole component of who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And I'm taking away from what you're saying. No, like you just said, if I'm team A today, then I'm team A then I'm team A right now. And all else, depending on how urgent it is, can wait. I've got to be here and be present and be where my feet are. And that's got nothing to do with your personality or who you show up as a leader. It's still Karen, no matter where you are.
Absolutely. And I think that's where you've got to be authentic. And, as I said, I don't change who I am, whether I'm at home or I'm at work. I'm the same person, but it's about not taking over the baggage or the carrying over of something that might have happened at home. You don't take into work and vice versa kind of thing. And I think the really good leaders, as I said, you still show who you are as a person. It's just being able to know the boundaries and know that your team needs you, and your team B doesn't need to know what happened at team A at the other store, for example. It's just kind of be where your feet are.
Yeah, and that authenticity and know who you are, it comes back to the self-leadership point about
absolutely
awareness and confidence and self-awareness, number one, but also belief in self.
Yeah. And I think people, and definitely during COVID, it was something that my team said to me, that they just trusted me. And if that was my decision, you think of it, you're going into the trenches or something, you want to follow someone that has a fair idea what they're doing, or at least fake it till you make it, shows that they've got, you can't go in there going, oh, I'm not sure, will we do that? It's just make the call, done. And you got to back it up then, but you got to have the guts to make that call. Yeah. And that's where, when I had that mantra of, as long as my team is safe and they're happy, then that's how I based all my decisions.
Yes. And the message that your team said that they trusted you, I think is really kind of, it's okay to not entirely know, but to know that you're driven by a value of safety. That means they will follow you, because even if you're not sure of the next 3 steps in this particular process, you're always got them in mind. And I think
absolutely
that I almost wanted to cry when you talked about how your team said that COVID was their best bit. I mean, what a horrible experience for so many people, yet your team could see that you had their back and they were willing to lean in and play. So
absolutely. And I think it's that you've got their best interests at heart, and you will always put them first. And none of us, it was unknown for everyone. And also I think that's important to don't hide that either. Like, I was quite vulnerable with them. Look, I don't know the answers. And it was really hard when one pharmacy might be doing this, another one might be doing that. I saw this on the weekend. Should we be doing that? I don't know. The guidelines say we shouldn't be doing that, but they were doing it. What should I do? So, you can be upfront with them and be really genuine and go, look, I don't have the answers, but this is how we're going to do it. And this is what we're going to run with. And we'll keep adapting as we need to. But it was just that. And I think that trust and respect absolutely builds over time, that you always show them that, I've got their best interests at heart, and we're in this together. And we constantly said this, we're in this together. And I think when I saw the dance offs and even the final dance that Team B did, and they sent it to me, it was so long, farewell. And I just thought, wow, and that was in August kind of thing, when we came back to one team. But yeah, I just thought how proud I was that, we got through that, and we actually came out of it better as a team than what we went in, but kind of solidified how good our foundation was to start with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And all credit to you and, and the team as well, but to you leading the way. I guess then, has there been a time when some of your team members may have needed their own self-leadership to be, sparked up a bit? And if that's the case, what sort of things have you done to help your people fire that up in themselves?
Yeah. I've got a really strong philosophy that my role is to make them a better person. So when they leave me, as long as they leave a better person than when they started with me, I've done my job. And I invest heavily in personal development. And I know indirectly, if I make them a better person, they'll make me a better pharmacy. And I think because I love personal development and leadership, so whether it's conferences, workshops, we just did a leadership workshop recently where I took my leadership team and evaluating each other's strengths, things like that. So, and I think it's really hard though with that, the self-belief. And I think sometimes you feel like you just want to give them a shake and go, you've got this. There's only so much you can do as well. And I think that's important as well. Don't bang your head against the wall if they're not. It just takes time, and you've just got to constantly be there for them and just keep presenting them with opportunities and hope they grab them with two hands. And also that to get in other people, it's not, you don't have to know everything. And I always like to outsource and get different. And also I think it's a bit parent-like where it can just become white noise sometimes. So getting someone else from the outside coming in that has similar values and that to you sometimes, and that's what happened at this leadership course, you can see them going, oh, that's when you talk like that or you say those kind of things. Oh, now we've heard it from someone else. Like,
You're
it somehow means more. I've been trying to tell you that. But yeah, what really hurts me is when it is their own self-belief that stops them, and you can see so much potential in them. And yet they still haven't got that confidence. And it's always hard. Opportunities within a small team as well. Like there's only, and how you prepare them to then, when you do buy another store and they do go into the leadership role in that store or something like that. But yeah, personal development is huge for my teams and something that I invest a lot of money in for them. So
yeah, and I think that your point about the self-belief is just so true, that it's almost fundamental in a lot of ways. And during COVID, I took the opportunity to do a course on how to be a confidence coach, and I found it really quite interesting. And some of the exercises that I learned to use, when I looked at them, I went, oh, of course, like they were simple and fantastic. And even just the one around, and this is where even in this short period, I can feel my confidence has also improved, where I had to look at all the wins that I've had and not forget about the wins and the successes, so that I could then build on my confidence that way. And all I need to be doing is comparing myself today to yesterday, as opposed to myself to everybody else.
Absolutely.
That was that simple little exercise in and of itself was like, oh yeah, of course. But we don't often think that, and we've got a lot of noise going on around us that we don't often are able to hear that either.
Absolutely. And I think as well, sport taught me, very much about goal setting. But something I've tried to do in the last few years is not have that. Goal setting can be quite tunneled, can be very like you're just looking so far in front that you miss these little things off to the side. But also you miss the small, and it's so important to celebrate the small wins and just the little subtle things that, yes, you all might be going for one big target at the end, but it's the small things. And absolutely that not one of another sporting analogy is, but I have so much respect for my opposition, but I never ever let them consume me. It's only control what you can control. So stop worrying about, and definitely in COVID with other pharmacies, kind of stop worrying about what's everyone else doing and just bring it back to you and go, this is what I can control in my little store with my team. what are we going to do? And as I said, celebrate with a dance in the morning or pizza at night or something. But just that one step at a time mentality, but still have the big picture, but don't get so tunneled that you kind of miss all the little bits in between.
Yeah, I'm laughing because my own netball days, and the coach in quarter time, play your game, don't play your game. So I just had the coach in my ear, so you brought back there. And it's play your game, and yes, totally respect your opposition or your competition, however you define that in this world. So love that. Yeah. Look, we're fast running out of time, unfortunately, but I've got one more question for you, please, Karen, and that is, what do you wish you knew about self-leadership before you bought your first pharmacy? Or no, before you stepped into your first leadership roles? This could be going back to your childhood, but
but I think I don't know if there's one thing I wish because I don't think you actually really know when it started. And the term self-leadership have only really been thinking about it over the last few years. I think you just see yourself as, okay, I'm the captain of this team, or okay, I've been put in this role. When it comes to leadership, I think it is what I wish I had known was just understanding people better. We are ultimately people managers, and just really, and that situation in different situations and things like that. But even recently, I was asked about my leadership legacy, which is something I've never thought of either. That I've thought of my legacy as a pharmacist, but never thought of my legacy as a leader. And so I think some of this is terminology that's just kind of, for me, I've just never consciously thought of it. I've just always seen myself as the captain or coach of my teams, whether it's a sporting team or a business team, but definitely have evolved and learned a lot over the years. Absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words before we close out?
I think it's just believing in yourself first and foremost. And once you've got that, people will want to follow you, and you will inspire. You'll naturally be able to inspire people then, that they go, actually, I want to jump on your bus and I want to be a part of it. And let's go and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And with that great message of be where your feet are, thank you so much, Karen Brown, pharmacy owner for TerryWhite Chemmart at Arana Hills, which is north of Brisbane, and a local legend, a local leader, community leader. I do see Karen contributing so much across the community with sporting groups, and also there was a men's health initiative as well that you've been involved in. So thank you so much for everything that you do, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your insights here on the Spark Self-Leadership series.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally.
Thanks, and look forward to another Spark Self-Leadership video coming your way soon. Bye for now.